Hello, everyone. Hi, Joylynn.
Hi.
Uh, I want to welcome everyone in the chat. I'm joined today with my friend Joylynn, a security cloud advocate here at Microsoft. I'm the Python community advocate here at Microsoft, and this is the Python Pulse. We're here monthly to talk about Python things, and we are specifically hosted on the VS Code YouTube channel and in Visual Studio Twitch. That means we're going to be talking about a lot of VS Code usually, but today we got some like a little VS Code, some Entra ID, some security, and some GitHub as well. And I'm not really well versed on how to secure my applications with these like new tools. These are new tools for me. So I'm really excited to jump into some of these things today with you, Joylynn. And just one quick thing before I
Awesome.
just like get out of the way and let Joylynn teach us a bunch. One, I will be muting myself because my noisy dogs in the background are really excited about security as well. And you can check out all of the things that we're going to be talking about and more. We have them in the show notes. We have them at aka.ms/Python Pulse / show notes. I think, yeah, there we go. That's a new link. It's a new page. It's like prettier than it was before. It was just like a GitHub repo. So now you have all of the great links I will be talking about today. And I'm excited to jump in. Make sure you join the chat and ask us questions. We love for the Python Pulse to be conversational and interactive. And we have a lot of people joining us today. So I'm really excited. All right, let's go.
Awesome. Okay, let me share my screen first. So thank you, Don. I'm really excited to be here today. I am actually based out in Kenya. As we speak, it's nighttime right now. I know for most people it's during the day, but I'm really excited to be here because I'm talking
Awesome.
about a topic that I'm really excited about. Yes, so today I'm going to take you through how you can secure your Python applications. And first off, I don't know, Dawn, maybe from your experience, do you have you been trained on secure coding? Let's just
So,
have a feel
no,
because yeah.
I've deployed like solo applications. I have a couple in production that I've worked on, some for friends or some small business and things like that. I think my applications are pretty secure, but like I know that I'm going to learn a lot today. So no, I've not been trained specifically on what I think the secure coding is.
Oh, awesome. Then I think for most of the developers, what I've gotten to learn in the last couple of years is that many developers actually don't really take care of security. And what we want to emphasize as much as possible is that security is everyone's responsibility. And one key thing that I know is that developers are our first line of defense. So why I say developers are our first line of defense? Because you are actually building solutions that we are using out there. And actually, having worked with developers know when they're doing insecure stuff. So I don't know if it's because of time limitation. You know, sometimes you have to deploy a particular project by a particular deadline. So they say you have to go live by Friday. So I've been in this field for the last 10 years, and I've been. I know most people when you think of developers and security teams, most people think of security teams as showstoppers or something of the sort because in most cases we've done security wrong in that it's sort of like it's developers against security folks. So right now we want to say it's developers and security. We all have a stake in the security journey. And today we're going to practically learn on how you can be able to secure your Python applications. And I'll just start off by um,
I do want to
talking
mention real
about
quick something that you said. You made a really good point. When I've been an
yeah.
engineer, especially on larger teams, the security responsibility kind of lived on a different team, and they would always like tell us the things that we were supposed to do. And I don't know how much ownership I took over it. I thought it was cool. I like security. I want to do the best work I can. but it was always another team bugging me. So I guess I absolutely thumbs up on it needs to be everybody's responsibility. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually say I apologize to the developers that I've worked with before because I never used to make it easy for them. So by that I mean I would generate a whole list of security vulnerabilities and have the reports in Excel, and then I just share with the developers. So when they receive the report, they're just wondering, okay, so where do I even start? I've not been trained to understand these security terminologies. So we want to make it very clear, like developers are not security folks. So we don't want to turn you into security professionals. We just want to go where you are and to make security part of your journey as well, and make it easy for you, and not coming into your time that you're supposed to be coding and then you're navigating into other security stuff. So there's a time, actually, like I was working with a developer. It took him like maybe 1 hour to come up with like a piece of code, like a file. And then we were running this security tool in their IDE, and then it was generating a lot of false positives. Do you know, it actually took him 2 days to address those false positives before we actually knew it's false positives. So that's why we have to make it very easy for them to understand what is actually wrong with my code. And please stay tuned, because I'll show you what capabilities are available for you to identify security vulnerabilities from where you're working with, from your workflow. And I just want to start off with this chart here. So every 4 years, on the top web application security vulnerabilities. And so the last one was in 2021. The next one will be next year. So you can see here that the enforces policies such as users cannot act outside of their intended permissions as much as possible. So you have you're not able to access those pages which you're not authorized to. So this is also where we look at the principle of least privilege, and making sure that someone who's supposed to access something, they only have access to that particular something. So the reason why I bring this up is point out is identification and authentication failures. So this one was actually previously also known as broken authentication, and it's moving down from, it used to be in second position, now it's moving down. So we have several weaknesses that are available for identification failures. So this category is still very much important in the top 10 web application security vulnerabilities, even if it's gone down, but it's gone down because of the availability of standardized frameworks used for authentication. And one thing that I'm going to talk to you about today is authentication and authorization. So I'm going to show you how you can be able to use authentication, identity and access within your application, all the way from your IDE. So from your VS Code, how you can be able to integrate authentication and authorization. Stay tuned. So the reason why it's very important for us. So today, identity, actually, cyber attacks are increasing in numbers and sophistication. So there are more than 4,000 password cyber attacks every second. Imagine that. So 4,000 password attacks every second. So it's virtually impossible to anticipate and address the unlimited number of access scenarios that can occur across an organization, and its supply chain, especially when it comes to third-party systems, platforms, applications, device outside the organization's control. So it's quite vast. So we have a lot of growth of applications, and also the corporate network, which also requires secure access. So there's a lot that we need to make sure that we have the right identity and access control deployed. So that's how I introduce this family called the Microsoft Entra product family. You
It's
probably
exciting.
had of
Before you dig into this, like I just want to kind of like absorb. This is my
yeah.
first time seeing this. Also, in case anyone may have some audio issues that I've been having to, my dog's being nuts. Audio issues that I might also have. Joylynn, you were breaking up just a little bit, so I don't know if your background filter might need to be turned off or something like that. But this is really
Okay.
exciting
Okay.
because this covers the Entra product family, which used to be my identity.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so we have a lot of products actually in the Microsoft Entra product family. And you might be wondering, okay, so we have all these, so which one is actually relevant to me? So all of these are actually relevant according to the scenario that you're using. But for today's scenario, we're going to be covering the Microsoft Entra external ID. And you might be familiar with Microsoft Entra ID. So Microsoft Entra ID was formerly known as the Azure Active Directory or Azure AD. And this one is a cloud identity and access management solution that connects people to their applications, devices, and data. So this is where we talk about scenarios like integrations and single sign-on, where you can connect your workforce to all your applications from any location using any device. So by simply using single sign-on, and also we have passwordless using Microsoft Authenticator, phone sign-in, and multi-factor authentication as well. So all that is within Microsoft Entra ID. So there's a lot that is covered under the Microsoft Entra product family, but today I'm going to focus mainly on the Microsoft Entra external ID. So the Microsoft Entra external ID is mainly for use cases whereby you are working with people who are outside of your organization. So that can be customers, it can be your business customers, and as well as business collaborators. So this can be in a scenario whereby you have a mobile app where it's an e-commerce site or e-commerce app, and then you want customers to authenticate before buying your solutions. So it can also be a bakery. It can be anything that you think about. So where you want to sell to your customers and you want them to be authenticated. And we also have business customers. So this mainly also like B2C, where you have your business to your customers, selling stuff to your customers. And you also have business collaborators. So just think of this, of how you are maintaining your external identities as much as possible. So whereby you are looking at your consumers, your customers, who are consuming this application that you're developing. So one key thing that we find is that actually external ID is actually very simple to integrate, and this best in class that I can tell. So by building external ID on the same stack as Microsoft Entra, we can extend capabilities customers love to external identities backed by trillions of security signals and platform scalability and high reliability as well. So you can work with developers are also key implementers when it comes to this solution, but most of have limited experience with building identity into applications. So external ID meets developers where they are by integrating seamlessly into the DevOps solution like GitHub, Visual Studio Code, Power Apps as well. So there can be all these tools that you need to create branded, customized user flows backed by identity leading identity security. So this solution helps you at least to customize your user flow. Like by user flow, I mean your login scenario. Like you have your sign-in page or your sign-up page. You can be able to customize it also using external ID. I'm going to show you how to do this practically because it's quite interesting. And some of the key capabilities that I really like about external ID is that it gives you a secure, customized way to scale your growing business. So because you can be able to secure your user access, because one key thing that I've seen is phishing. I don't know how many of us have been phished before. So there's one terminology also known as spear phishing, whereby you are really targeting like a particular person. So phishing is whereby someone is trying to do some form of social engineering, whereby they send an email to you, probably around bonus time, and then you see an interesting email saying that bonus update, and then you're very tempted to click on that email. And then probably by clicking that particular link, which is malicious, some of the information is actually transmitted back to a remote server, and your information is picked. So what external ID helps is also making sure that you have a layer of protection, so that you have phishing resistance, and you have making sure that your user experience is as seamless as possible, and making sure that you have a secure app development whereby you can change your customization of your UI. You can be able to enable sign-in experience for your customers, and avoid, and also like have this that seamless experience as much as possible. So let me just show
I have
you
a quick question. So on this page,
in
before we keep
practice.
moving on, I definitely want to move
Yeah,
into the code examples. Super
sure.
duper excited about that. And I know that there's a lot of features that
Yeah.
we could be talking about today, but we only have an hour, so I don't want to be too greedy with your time. So what's interesting is that you mentioned that there's UI customization, and so that's like all the way from the front end.
Yes.
You're able to have kind of that's the um SSO, single sign-in options. Is that correct? Okay. And
Yes.
then, but then there's also like complex flows and orchestration. So I'm a little confused on what that might end up being. So it sounds like it might be multiple pages that you could end up going to. And then progressive profiling. So that's a term that I'm not familiar with. Could you talk about a couple of these points in particular, and then we could jump into some maybe code?
Oh yeah, so by secure user access. So one key thing is that you are using the whole depth of Entra external ID to
Okay.
know who is accessing what. You get?
Yep.
So you have that way of linking and knowing if someone has access to this, they should only have access to this. And
Okay.
also
Okay.
we have a whole vast of with Microsoft with AI, like we have all these integrated as well in the product, so you can know who should be having access to what. And if there's an anomaly, you can also have that tried and know that there's something wrong that's happening somewhere. Okay.
Okay.
So you
That
have
makes
that
perfect.
element of secure user access. Okay. So I just want to show you in practice first
Yes,
before
please.
we go any further. Okay. So when you're in your VS Code, I want you to go to the extensions, the marketplace, and just search for Entra external ID. Okay. So this is what you will have. I've already installed it, definitely. But go in and install it and try it out. And then you can give me feedback as well after you've tried it out. So
So just
what
to
this
let everyone know,
Microsoft
so
Entra external ID does, it gives
one
you,
quick One quick note. So then just to like highlight what we're looking at VS Code, which is the lightweight editor, the channel that we're on. Hopefully a lot of people are familiar with VS Code. It's one of the most popular editors in the world. And then we're using the extension system. So we're just going to the left side and going to that icon where you can install extensions and customize your VS Code experience. And then there's an extension for Entra ID, and this is a new extension. This one like hasn't existed for very long. Is that correct?
yeah. So it went public review back in March,
Okay,
and very soon it's going GA. So
perfect.
stay tuned.
Okay, great,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So the thing I like about this is that you are actually integrating authentication into your customer and business applications. So you're actually securing your resources and customer data, and you can actually quickly add authentication to your applications, application scenarios, all the way from your IDE. You don't have to move anywhere. So you can also use we have different application samples provided, so you can use to set up your customized branded sign-in experience for external users of your application without leaving the development environment. So you're doing everything within your IDE. Isn't that amazing?
That is so helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that I'm
So
always leaving for code snippets or something like that, especially for things like you're building a login maybe like once every time you build a new application. It's really easy to forget the process to do this and to do it the right way, which changes every 6 months to a year, because bad guys figure out new ways to try to hack your applications. So this is great. Keep it all in my VS Code.
oh yeah,
Perfect.
exactly. Yeah. Yes, yes. So this is actually very beginner friendly because it's showing you step by step how you can be able to create a trial tenant, how you can be able to set up. Let me show you in practice. So once you have installed the extension, you just come to the left, obviously, to the icon of your extension. And then down here, you will see an open extension walkthrough. So we've created an open extension walkthrough so to help you guide through the whole process of creating the free trial tenant, because you're setting up an authentication. So remember, for this one, what you're trying to do is to set up the sign in and the sign up. So you don't have to do that yourself. So you have your application, and this authentication is now what you're using for Microsoft Entra external ID. I'll show you in practice as well. So what you want to do, you can, if you don't have a tenant available, you can set up one for free. So for me, I already have an external tenant, so I can use my subscription, which is already logged in. So what I can do, um, I can set up a sign-in and branding experience. So by this is, you remember now when you're doing your user interface, like for the username and password, you're beautifying the login experience. So that's what you're doing here in the sign-in for your users. So you can choose either for it to be email and password, or it can be email and one-time passcode. Definitely having an email and one-time passcode would be is definitely more secure. But for this
Uh-huh.
case, let's just do email and password
Wow, and we're
for
making
this demo
some of these
purpose only.
decisions very early in the process, and you're doing it all through the UI. That's very cool. Okay.
Yeah. And then you can be able to customize your branding for all apps. So by this, you can say if you want the sign-in form to either be centered aligned or right aligned. In this case, I can just say maybe right aligned. And then you can choose the color of your login form as well. So in this case, I can just say, I know, Dawn, you like purple. I know you like purple very much. Let me see if I can get and
I
grab
do like
purple somewhere.
purple.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, and then if you have your company logo, if you have your company logo, you can select the logo. In this case, I'll just skip that. And then it's configuring the sign-in flow. So the sign-in flow is what we call the user flow, just the sign-in page. So it's configuring all that for us.
That is very cool.
And it
I
doesn't
didn't know
take
that all
long,
of it was. No, it's not.
actually.
I
You can
mean,
see it's already setting up something for us.
yeah. And so it's doing all of the Azure part as well because we've
It's already
already been able to
you
log.
can see
Okay.
here, sign-in flow setup is complete.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. So in this case, since you're using a trial tenant, so your users will be deployed in that trial tenant. Your resources will be in that trial tenant. So you don't have to have like your own resources deployed. So everything around authentication is handled from external ID side. And then next, we want to try out our sign-in experience. So let's see. Just say run it now.
And I
Okay.
also have a
So I want to
question.
run it for, yeah.
So at this point, we haven't really touched any Python specifically. So technically, all of these instructions are just easy for any language. Is it the same steps for any language?
Yes, it's the
Cool.
same for every language.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. This is very cool. Okay.
So yeah. So what you're trying to do here now is to open the sign-in experience. So what I'll do, I'll just copy that and open it in a browser. So what it has done, it has created this for me. Remember, I had selected the colors, I had selected the how I want to log in. So it has done that for me. And in this case, since I don't have any account here, I can just say I want to create one. You can create your username, you can create the email, and then you say next. But I already had one set up, so let me just try to log in. And then I give it my password. Okay, okay. If it can't find it, I'll have to set one up. Okay, no.
It's not trivial to code all of those individual pages and just to have all of the interaction each time through. That's very, very cool. I mean, I know from my experience, I
Mhm.
use the authentication from Django,
Yeah,
which is really good out of the box. I mean, it's really what a lot of people use, and but it does not have all of these integrations that I would otherwise be able to use, and it's pretty slick on the side. I mean, that follows a lot of login conventions to have that side panel as well. So that's very cool. I have not played with this yet.
yeah. So your sign-in experience is this way. So you have not yet linked it to an existing application. So definitely upon successful sign-in, it will take you to this site. But definitely, once you have an application, you can link it to your user flow. So the user flow is that username and password that we just set up. So what you can do is now to set up and run a sample application.
Okay, that makes
So
sense.
we have several applications, so in whatever language that you're using. So you can set up a sample application here. And to tell me to pick one of them. Let me just pick the one that we've just created. So you can see here we are supporting several languages. And for this case, we want to do it definitely in Python. And so let's run this one. We want to do it in Django. Let's see Django. So what it will do to tell me to save that sample code locally. Let me just download the repository. So I've already downloaded the repository.
Okay, that makes sense. So it'll give you a place in your code where they want you to direct it
So it's
because we've not
downloading the
really
sample.
yeah, we've not touched any files yet. So that's good. Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly. Yes. So once it's downloaded the code sample, remember we chose for Python Django. So this is our sample. And guess what? So this it has the authentication already set up.
Perfect.
So
And
remember
this
we
is
had spilled
very
up a trial
familiar.
tenant, so it's already ended. Yeah,
Exactly. As a Django engineer, all of this file structure looks very familiar. This is my home and my safe place. And I guess when we start clicking around, we'll see the small changes that Entra ID is introduced in order to allow for that logging experience. Okay, cool. What is the I see some environment.
exactly,
Oh, and I see some
exactly,
in
exactly. So
interesting.
you can see here we can have like, yeah. So it's very important for us. So you can go to the README of your sample application. And in this case, we are using this Azure sample. You have to install the required requirements. So let's do that. So it should be able to install all the dependencies.
I don't know if it's the same for others, but I see you. The screen is frozen on you copying the pip install the requirements. What do we have on your screen? Oh, now it works for me.
It's running for you?
Yes, it's showing the terminal now.
Okay.
We just had a little bit of a freeze, but I think you're back now.
Let me get that running for you.
Perfect.
Oh, sorry. It's just running already?
I see what I
Hello?
see on your screen. Yes, what I see on your screen now is the terminal open, and I see that we interrupted the process in the middle. I think what we're gonna, yeah, and we're in PowerShell. I don't use PowerShell too
Okay,
much,
let's
but
just run it.
we might want to start with a virtual environment and, well, this might work. So I don't usually use PowerShell. Oh, but it's working. It's working fine.
Yeah. Oh, you don't use PowerShell? Okay, that's my
No,
default
not
actually.
typically. I usually use my command prompt,
Okay,
but this is perfect. Cool.
let's
Okay.
see if it
This one's open.
runs. So at least everything in terms of the steps it's given you, everything is available for you to run. It has already integrated the authentication for you, so it's very easy for you to go in and yeah. So the one thing that you've seen for this particular one is the trial tenant that we spinned up is actually included in the .env. So it's the authority. So this is the trial tenant that I'm using. And this is the client ID and the client secret to create the service principal now in Azure. So we can be able to spin up your resources and you can be able to now authenticate using the trial tenant. So once everything is prepared, let's see how it goes.
Another question. So with this
It's
example, where
done.
you're just
So
using
let's
the
see if
trial
we can
tenant,
migrate this.
one question on using the trial
Yeah.
tenant, can you use social media profiles or your GitHub just like right like this from the very beginning?
For social media, that's in the works as well.
Okay,
So you will be able to use social media very soon as well. So let's
perfect.
see
Cool.
if we can run it now. Hopefully it goes well. You can
Perfect.
see something is running. It's running. Let's see if it picked up. Let me get. Were you doing it alongside me?
I was saying that this looks much more familiar, and we also didn't really go much into the Django and what like people may not be familiar with what Django is. So put in the chat if you know about Django, if you've used Django, if you want to learn a little bit more about Django. It's my favorite Python web framework. But it's the one that's considered with all of the batteries included. Flask has a little bit more, and then Fast API is a really great way to just start with an API. And it's very cool that we get to start with the batteries included and then add more batteries in it with this template.
Yeah. So normally, definitely, you have your MVP, or what I say, like at least you have your product that's running. Yeah. And then now you want to add authentication and protect what you've already built. So this is what you're trying to do. So protecting the keys to your kingdom, literally by keys. So yeah, so by setting up this sign-in authentication, so it's making it very easy for you to do it. And guess what? So using Microsoft Entra external ID for the first 5,000 users, it's free, and then they bill after that. Yeah. So
That's really
it was
helpful.
just as simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as simple as that, I can sign into that application that we have deployed. Oh my. Okay. Let me see if you can use another account. Oh yeah, but it works. So yes, so what it does at least, it gives you that you sign in availability, and you can be able to see your application actually working,
And you can see that it
and
worked
you
because it
can
had that
see
200
your
response.
application.
And we could see it work because we
Yes,
saw the 200 response there, with
yes,
the
yes,
token, that long token, feeling very secure here with the long token.
yeah,
Okay, cool.
yes, yeah. So I'll give you a guide on how you can play with this, and you can probably even see how you can be able to integrate your application, or you can use the sample applications that are available. But one thing that I would want to go, because of time, is especially to learn how you can be able to build more secure code using GitHub Advanced Security. So yes, we've done the authentication bit, but as long as you have done the authentication, but your code is still insecure, remember, for us, we have to be lucky every time, and for a hacker, they have to be lucky only once. Yeah. So we've done only one piece in the whole thing. So at least we've sorted out the authentication. Now we need to make sure that our code is very secure. So that's why we'll cover GitHub Advanced Security. So you find that actually 80% to 90% of whatever code base that we're using is actually what I call borrowed code. By borrowed code, I mean it's open source, is third-party dependencies. And you can imagine with all these that you are borrowing and bringing into your code base, it's actually, if you don't know which one is actually vulnerable, you are introducing security vulnerabilities into your environment. So this reuse of code allows teams actually to spend less time rebuilding the wheel, and more time on code that actually differentiates your business. So in the 10 to 20%, it's actually code that you are building yourself. And you find that the other common source of security vulnerability is employee error. So by employee error, we find that we're talking about exposed access tokens, unsafe code patterns. So there's a lot that you have to consider around code security. And you probably have heard of the terminology DevSecOps. DevOps is the practices and collaboration between developers and operations team, which lead to faster software delivery. So DevOps actually combines people, processes, and technology to deliver continuous value to users. So DevSecOps is actually the evolution of DevOps, where the company takes on a security-first mindset. So you're putting security into every phase of the software development lifecycle, from design all the way to delivery. So you find that according to this report in the screen, the global average cost of a data breach in 2022 actually reached $4.88 million, marking a 10% increase from the previous year and setting a new record high. So also it being the era of AI, where we are integrating very many new technologies. Definitely with technology advancing, the threat landscape advances as well. So threat landscape becomes larger as well. So remember what we said, we want to make it very hard for hackers to compromise our solution, right? And we want to make it, they have to be lucky only once. So with technology advancing, their chances of being successful is actually very big as well. So with this, we really want to make sure that we have early detection. So we are integrating security early, allowing the detection of vulnerabilities at the source code level, minimizing the likelihood of issues actually reaching production. And then we also have some form of efficient remediation, because security issues can be addressed promptly as part of the regular development activities. So reducing the time and efforts required to understand the context of the issue. So you are able to fix them all the way from the development step before it gets to production. Okay. So here we're looking at, yes, the cost is significantly lower when you find it in development, less, unlike when it's found in production. Okay. So that's where GitHub Advanced Security comes in. So GitHub Advanced Security is an application security solution that empowers developers. So advanced security is embedded right into your workflow to help prevent vulnerabilities and credential leaks without slowing the development process. So GitHub Advanced Security is like having your own personal security consultant review every line of your code with insights from security experts from all around the world. So you're using knowledge from everyone else, and just where you are working at in your workflow. So these are the main capabilities that are available. Where we're talking about supply chain. Remember, we spoke about the 80 to 90% of the code base being what we are borrowing in open source and third-party libraries. So here we're making sure that we are protecting the supply chain in terms of having the dependency graph, the advisory database, dependable security alerts and updates, and dependency review. I'll show you this in action as well. And then the other element is the code. So this is the code that we are actually building ourselves. So in the code, we are trying to, as much as possible, to identify the secrets that are within our code before it actually reaches to production. And we are also looking at code scanning. This is where we have static analysis of your code to make sure that you are deploying the best coding standards. And we also have Copilot Autofix. So we are using AI to give you suggestions to fix your security vulnerabilities. And then also within the development lifecycle, we have other capabilities like branch protection, commit signing, and security overview, making sure that whatever you're building is actually signed and you know that it's actually the right one. Okay, so let's give you an overview of this within your public and private repositories. And guess what? So public projects on GitHub actually benefit from certain default security features, such as secret scanning and dependency graph. So most of these are actually free of charge. So you can benefit from code scanning free of charge if it's a public repository on GitHub. You can also do secret scanning and dependency review for free if it's a public repository on GitHub. But for private repositories, you need advanced security license to be able to do all this. So I want to show you all this in action. I don't know, Dawn, if you, yeah, if we're still together.
This makes me feel a lot better because some of the things that I know and then some of the things that I
We're good?
didn't, and I didn't realize that like this dependabots, for example, were all included in this GitHub advanced security like package. So it makes me feel better because some of these things are familiar, but it's all kind of packaged together in this one thing that can help. So I'm happy and excited, a little bit less scared.
Yeah. Yeah, so just think of it. Let me simplify it. So when you're talking about code security, so just think of it in three areas. So we're looking at the dependencies of what you are consuming and bringing in, the code that you're actually building, and also your secrets. So those are the three main areas that I look at in terms of code security because, yeah, like if you protect any of those, at least your chances are higher. So let me just show you how you can be able to use GitHub Advanced Security. Remember, you can use these features available for you for free in the public repositories. So please just go in and try them out. So when you are in your repository, all you have to do to enable this is to go to settings. And navigate to the left side. We have code, security, and analysis. And then we have to enable dependency graph. So what dependency graph will do, it will give you an overall view of, okay? So it will give you that overall view of your dependencies. I'll show you how the dependency graph looks like. And then to scan for dependencies. So scan for your supply chain security issues. Okay. So all you have to do is to enable dependabot alerts.
I am familiar with
So
Dependabot.
what
I
this will
get
do
those
as well,
emails
you will be
all the
receiving
time.
annual. Oh, perfect. Yes. So when you enable dependable alerts, at least you'll be getting alerts every so often on mail saying that whatever the good thing about security, we have these things called zero-day vulnerabilities. What is secure today might be insecure tomorrow. So that's the thing with dependencies, because you are using an outdated version, which might be version that's up to date today will be out of date tomorrow. Okay. And all you have to do as well is to enable dependable security updates. So what this does, it will open pull requests for you to resolve the dependable alerts for you. And then you can be able to also group the security updates. So if the updates, so you'll probably find like there are 5 security updates, which are all on one particular dependent. So you can be able to group all of them so that it's instead of it appearing like many of them, if you fix one particular dependency, all of those security issues are fixed. So you can enable that as well. And then you can also enable the dependabot version updates. So what this will do, it will automatically keep your dependencies up to date. So whenever it finds the new versions, it updates it for you. So hopefully it won't break your code. So you have to make sure that by the time you're enabling this, at least your application is very scalable. Like it would break. Yeah. And then the other key aspect of GitHub Advanced Security is code scanning. So what this does, so normally if you have your code already up in your repository, all you have to do is to say choose default, and then it will crawl through and detect which language you're actually using. And then so normally you'll find here there'll be Python. All you have to do is just to enable code kill. So we haven't yet pushed our code from VS Code, but I'll show you another one that I have done. And then the other thing that you need to do is to enable secret scanning. Remember those three aspects that I mentioned: dependencies, your code, and your secrets. So you have to make sure that you are enabling secret scanning. And then one thing that will enable secret scanning, you'll see that there's some other options that have just pop up. So these are validity checks. So if you enable this, it will check to see if your secret is actually valid. And then, so it will actually send to the secret provider, and then they'll verify if it's actually valid. So you can enable that if you want. And then we also have non-provider patterns. So it will check against to see if that particular secret is not from the partners that we have. Because normally you know that for a particular secret, there's a particular regex that's used to identify a particular secret is actually from Azure, from Slack, from whichever. And then this is the most important thing as well. So push protection. Make sure that you have this enabled so that when you are in VS Code and you're trying to push any changes to your repository, and it finds that you have any secrets within your code base, it will prevent you from actually merging that code until you fix that secret. So
It
the
is a
reason why I really
tale
like
as
push
old as
protection is that at least
time.
you are also able to,
It's a tale as old
yeah,
as time
yeah.
to
So you're able to
accidentally push
identify
your
them.
secrets
Yeah.
to your GitHub repository. So yes, that is so needed.
Oh, the number of times that I've seen what is being committed, like you're just wondering, like what was I thinking? Even me myself, like what was I thinking when I was doing this? Because reality is we are working with so many lines of code. It's very hard to go in line by line and okay, just remember that okay, this is the place where I had actually had coded a particular password. So it's very important for us to use as much as possible managed identities. So I was talking about Entra. As much as possible, use managed identities to your resources and making sure that you have like the likes of Entra external ID for authentication. Okay, and we also have like Azure Key Vault. So you have your keys, making sure that you have them stored securely in Azure Key Vault so that you're calling them securely. But as much as possible, make sure that you have push protection enabled. And yeah, that's it.
That was
Let me
so
just show you one
fantastic.
that I have here. So I
Okay.
have a vulnerable Django application here. Pardon?
Oh, I thought you were wrapping up but there's a little bit more, so I'm really excited. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so I had this already deployed. So I have this vulnerable. It's made to be vulnerable. So I have this vulnerable Django application. This is actually open. You can go to my repository here and just play around with this vulnerable application. And then you can see here for my dependencies. These are all the dependencies that are and have SQL injection. It will tell me which version is actually affected, and it will give me a recommendation that I need to actually go in and fix that. So what this has done as well, it has created a pull request for me. It has created a pull request for me. It says that I have to bump the Django from 3.0 to 3.2 because it's actually the one that's secure. So all I have to do is to go to that pull request that has been created. And all I have to do as well is to merge the request. So once you merge that request, these security vulnerabilities regarding that particular version will be fixed. Okay. And let's go to like code scanning. It's the same case as well. So for your code scanning, it will crawl through every line of code and tell you, okay, so this actually line of code is the one that's vulnerable. So in this case, it will tell me that line 176 is actually vulnerable, and it will give me a brief description. It says that if a database query is built from user provided data without sufficient sanitization, a user may be able to run malicious database queries. That's why we
Specific
always say that you have to
actionable
use parameterized
suggestions.
queries to prevent. Exactly.
That is
Yeah.
so helpful. So
So
it
you can
not
see
only helps
it's
improve
quite
your
amazing.
code,
Like,
totally.
yeah. And then the other thing is this particular version that's very vulnerable. I can go here I can see that I had exposed Slack API token. So what it tells you, it gives you remediation steps. So for any token that has been exposed, first of all, you have to rotate the secret if it's in use to prevent breaking workflows. And then you also have to revoke that secret or that token. Because one thing that I always say, once you've already pushed a secret, just consider it uh, consider it hacked as much as possible. And also make sure that your security logs, check your security logs for potential breaches, because probably someone has gotten access to that token and they've tried to gain access. And yeah, as much as possible, find those secrets before it reaches this point. Yeah. And one last thing that I just want to show you is around the Insights tab. Dependency graph. So when you go to the dependency graph, it gives you the list of all your dependencies. And also on the right here, you can see it actually lists the list of dependencies according to the security vulnerabilities. So this one is the one that is the most vulnerable. So it means that I have to actually address that very fast. Okay. Yeah, it's actually that simple. So we're trying to make security very easy for developers, because at least wherever you're working from your workflow, from your IDE, as in you can be able to get these security insights using knowledge from people from all over. Okay.
This is
Yeah.
so
So one thing that I
helpful.
also found to be very interesting, yeah, there's this site that actually shows the number of vulnerabilities in Python by year. So you can find that in 2024, there are actually only 2. Last year, there were 12. So um, more and more, as in there's less vulnerabilities here. But remember, even us, we're the ones who are coding. So even if Python itself is to some extent, they've put in security controls. If we are using dependencies that are out of date, that means that we can still be compromised. Yeah.
100%. Thank you so much for going into this
Yeah.
like explanation and giving us code. We had beautiful diagrams. We got to see the depth and breadth of Microsoft Entra ID as well as GitHub secure advanced security. Oh gosh, and you got a best practices one pager. This is fantastic. I'm gonna have to get these slides from you and put it in our
Mhm.
show notes. That'll be fantastic. And I'm so glad that were able to have you here. We'll come back and do like another live stream together. Maybe we'll have a bonus episode or something like that. And we can
Yes,
get
please.
deeper into some of these things. Maybe we could talk about Flask or Fast API or some other
Yeah.
security practices. So this has been fantastic.
Yes.
And to the audience that have joined and hung out in the chat with us, thank you so much for spending an hour with us for the Python Pulse, and we'll see you next month. Bye, y'all.